Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we're looking at this. It's the Harley Benton SC DLX Gotoh in a rather wonderful satin Daphne Blue finish. Now this is a brand new guitar in the Harley Benton family. It came out in October of 2021, so I think I'm probably one of the first to take a look at it here on YouTube. And the reason this video's come about is because some of you guys asked for it. Quite a few of you left me comments on my other videos asking what I thought of this very guitar, so I got in touch with my friends at Harley Benton and they sent me this one to do a video with. Now of course that means I didn't buy this guitar myself, but I'm not being paid to make the video. I'm not being told what to say. Harley Benton don't know what I'm going to say until I release the video, in fact, and I'm not going to get to keep the guitar afterwards either, unless of course I choose to buy my own. So there you go, just so you guys know that in advance. Right then, so SC DLX Gotoh. SC of course refers to the fact that this guitar is a single cutaway, rather like the guitar it's paying homage to, which is the Gibson Les Paul. Of course, DLX because this is one of the higher priced Harley Bentons at around 350 euros at time of filming, and Gotoh is in the name because this guitar features Gotoh hardware. So you've got a Gotoh bridge and tailpiece there, and at the headstock end we've got Gotoh tuners as well. So pretty cool features for a 350 euro guitar. But let me tell you about the rest of the instrument then. So I see the SC DLX as being influenced by the traditional Les Paul classic rock single cutaway design, but also with modern features for the 21st century player who wants that classic kind of look and feel, but also wants modern playability and modern sounds too. And that's exactly what this guitar seems to deliver on first glance. So let me tell you about the specifications and the features then. We'll start with the body. So the body of this guitar is nyatoh, or nyatoh, or however you say it, which is kind of a mahogany-esque tone wood. Now they've used that for whatever reason, I suspect to keep prices down a little bit. I find it a little bit strange that they haven't used mahogany because there are other Harley Benton guitars that have mahogany bodies, and the neck on this one is also mahogany. But there you go, nyatoh is the body on this one. It's got that beautiful satin Daphne Blue finish, front, sides and back, and on the back of the neck as well. I really like the colour of this guitar. It's a really sort of almost sky blue. It's really, really pretty. It possibly comes across a little bit lighter on the video, just as I'm looking at it compared to in the flesh, but if you look at the Harley Benton website, there's some great pictures that really do this guitar justice. It's a really beautiful one. There are other colours available. There's a black, there's another blue, maybe a pelham blue, and I think there might be one or two more, but check the Harley Benton website to see the other finishes that are available. Now the body of this guitar is slightly thinner than that of a traditional Les Paul, so that's another modern feature. It's a little bit sleeker against the body, and it also has a rather large cutaway here on the back. You can also see that compared to a traditional Les Paul cutaway here, where you meet the body and the neck, it's a little bit easier to reach the upper frets with this guitar than it is on a more traditional single cutaway there. Now, in terms of the rest of the body, we've got the gold Gotoh hardware, the bridge and the tailpiece. We've got a gold rhythm and treble pickup selector switch, a three-way to control the two Tesla VR2 Alnico 5 pickups. Now these are supposed to be traditionally voiced humbuckers that you can also split down to single coil tones. You've got a control for the volume of the neck pickup, a bridge pickup volume control, and a master tone control here. And you also pull up the tone control to split the humbuckers down to single coils. Now the body also features this beautiful white, black, white, black, white, black, white 7-way binding. I find that it's been very tastefully applied and it really adds to the look of the guitar. I love the Daphne Blue, the gold, the black and the white. It really looks good to me. This guitar looks way more expensive than it costs, basically. And that 7-way binding, that 7-ply binding I should say, is also here up at the headstock end. Now we've got the black front of the headstock, the back is satin Daphne Blue, and here we can see the Gotoh Cloisonne style gold tuners. Let's move up to the neck then, and one thing that I really love about the neck of this guitar is the fact that it has a rosewood fingerboard. Now that might not be a big thing to some of you, but for me personally, I really love the feel and the way a rosewood fingerboard plays, and a lot of affordable guitar builders have not been using rosewood recently because of CITES regulations. But Harley Benton have proved it's possible with this guitar, so there's no Pau Ferro, there's no Indian Laurel or anything else. This is a rosewood fingerboard, and that's just a thing that I personally really like about this guitar straight from the off. So the rest of the neck then, it's got 22 frets and the frets are stainless steel. So a great feature for a 350 euro guitar. You would not be expecting stainless steel frets at this price. They're medium jumbo frets. It's a Gibson-esque scale length 628 millimeters and a Gibson-esque fretboard radius too, 305 millimeters, which is about 12 inches. Now we've got a Graph Tech TUSQ XL 43 millimeter nut here, so very good quality again. And again, just up to the headstock, those gold Gotoh tuners, so this guitar should stay in tune very well. In terms of the feel of the neck then, it's very slinky, it's very easy to get up and down because of the satin finish, and the modern C shape to the neck means that it's quite slim. It's not a chunky neck at all. It's nothing like a 50s Gibson baseball bat neck, but it's thicker than an Ibanez Wizard sort of a neck too. It's very comfortable, sort of in the middle, slimmer for a modern feeling neck for me, but very comfortable indeed. So that's the SC DLX Gotoh then. What we're going to do now is play it, and for today's playing samples I'm going to use my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 head. We'll start on the amp's clean channel, we'll play some pop, some folk and maybe a bit of indie. Then we'll go to the amp's crunch channel and I'll do a bit of classic rock for you. After that we'll go back to the clean channel with my favourite Greer Lightspeed overdrive to do some indie, because I'm a big fan of indie and indie rock and I feel this guitar will be very good for that. After that we'll go to the amp's lead channel and do some heavier stuff. We'll do some harder rock, we'll do some glam rock, we'll do some punk and some alternative stuff, and then we'll go back to the amp's clean channel again. I'll kick in the Rev G3 distortion pedal, we'll tune down to drop D and see what kind of metal tones we can get out of the SC DLX. Now, as I mentioned before, the humbucking pickups are coil splittable. I shan't be playing every riff in humbucking and single coil modes. I think the humbuckers are probably going to be where this guitar is mostly at. So what I'm going to do is play every riff in humbucking mode, and we'll play a choice selection of them in single coil mode too. Everything will be noted in text while I'm playing, so you'll not be confused about anything like that. But if you have any questions after watching this, feel free to write me and I shall answer you as soon as I possibly can. Enough talk then, let's play the Harley Benton SC DLX Gotoh in Daphne Blue, and we'll speak in more detail about it afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Harley Benton SC DLX Gotoh in satin Daphne Blue finish, and I hope you enjoyed the playing and the tones. Now for me this guitar was sort of a learning experience the whole time that I've had it, because I've never had an instrument quite like this before. Now of course I've had single cut guitars, and I've got my 2014 Epiphone Les Paul, which I really love, but the SC DLX is more of a modern take on that style of instrument, with the thinner body, the satin finish on the body and the back of the neck, and the thinner modern C-shaped neck too. So it was something of a learning curve for me, and I was excited to get to grips with it. And now what I'm going to do is tell you in a bit more detail how I thought of the instrument during the time that I've had it, and do I think that it's worth those 350 euros. So my first impressions when I opened the box were, wow, this guitar looks fantastic. I really like blue finished guitars, as you'll know if you've ever watched my channel, and this satin Daphne Blue finish has been done really well. I love the shade of blue that they've gone for, and I couldn't find any blemishes whatsoever. It's been applied really, really well. It also juxtaposes beautifully with the rest of the hardware on the guitar and the 7-ply binding, the white, black, white, black, white, black, white binding. Couple that up with the gold pickups and hardware and the black and white that you can see on the rest of the guitar, and it makes for a really expensive looking instrument that to me looks like way more than the 350 euros you would pay for this guitar. When I then picked the guitar up, I was surprised to note just how heavy it was. Now, Les Paul style guitars are often quite heavy. We know them as backbreakers, especially the 70s Les Pauls. And this guitar weighed a little bit more than I expected, despite the fact that it's got that thinner body. This individual example weighs 3.85 kilograms, which is 8 pounds 8. So it's a really good weight overall, but I had expected it to weigh just a little bit less. It's extremely comfy to play sitting down or standing up with a strap, so no issues there. And it's not overly heavy and there's no neck dive or anything like that, but just something you might want to note. If you're expecting something super light, your guitar will probably not be super light. It'll be about 3.5 to 4 kilograms, about 7 pounds to 9 pounds possibly. Let's talk about the build quality and the hardware on the guitar then, and because we've got Gotoh in the instrument's name, we'll mention that again first. We've got these gold Clousson style Gotoh tuners here up at the headstock and the gold Gotoh bridge and tailpiece there on the body, and these are features that you would never expect to find on a 350 euro instrument. Gotoh is generally the preserve of medium to high range guitars, much more expensive items, and so to have them on a 350 euro Harley Benton guitar is absolutely fantastic. And these are things that you could expect to be able to rely on for years and years to come in terms of playing the guitar, gigging it if you play live gigs, and just general usage over the next few years. But that's not where it stops. There's more things on this instrument that for me I'm surprised to see on something that costs so little. We've got full-size alpha pots here for the electronics. We've got 22 medium jumbo stainless steel frets, and again, stainless steel frets are something I would not expect to find on an instrument that costs maybe twice the price of this guitar. So a really, really good feature here. Stainless steel frets should last forever, whereas standard nickel frets will not. You'll need to get them replaced at some point because they will wear down. We've also got the 43mm Graph Tech TUSQ XL nut here as well, and all this adds up to a guitar that feels like a Harley Benton that's already been modded. A lot of people will buy a Harley Benton new and say this is a good standard guitar, but what I'm going to do is upgrade the hardware and maybe the pickups and make it into a really, really good guitar. And it feels to me like the SC DLX is a pre-modded Harley Benton guitar that you can buy new from the shop. So full marks again to Harley Benton for being able to fit all this stuff into a guitar that costs 350 euros. In terms of hardware on paper, it's really punching above its weight. Now, the other thing to talk about before I tell you about the sounds is the playability and the neck. Now, we've got this modern C-shaped satin neck, which I found straight away to be very, very easy to play. The fret ends are all very smooth too. They came to me straight like that. This guitar could, of course, benefit with a setup, as every new guitar could as well, no matter what its price point. But straight out of the box, it was absolutely playable, and I had no issues with playability whatsoever. I mentioned it in the intro too, but we've got these nice cutaways here that give you extra access to the upper frets if that's what you want, and the rest of the guitar was very, very easy to play. So no issues with playability whatsoever. The last thing I want to mention about the neck once more is the fact that we've got that lovely rosewood fingerboard. I love rosewood fingerboards. In terms of cheaper guitars, it used to be that you get either a maple board or a rosewood board, but since 2017, when the CITES agreement came out and limited the use of rosewood, we've seen guitar companies plump more for things like Pau Ferro or Indian Laurel, and I've got no problem with those woods. I just seem to prefer rosewood. Call me crazy, but that's what I prefer, and I'm really happy to see that rosewood can be done at this price point. Again, full marks to Harley Benton for managing to pull that one off as well. Now, the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the pickups and the sounds of this guitar, which is of course one of the most crucial things. And we've got the Tesla VR2 Alnico 5 humbuckers in this guitar. And you've heard from the playing samples that you basically can play everything from jazz, blues, and country through to modern metal with this instrument. It's extremely versatile. No matter what kind of music you play, I think you could find your sound with this guitar. And I think if I had 10 different friends, well, I mean, I do have 10 friends, maybe. If I had 10 different guitar playing friends I could give this guitar to and say do your thing on it, they could do it all with this guitar and have no issues whatsoever. Now, you're not going to be able to replace genuinely the single coil twang of a Tele. You're not going to be able to do the quacky Strat sounds exactly with this guitar, but you can get ballpark for pretty much anything you would want to do. Now, when we started on the Clean channel, it became obvious to me straight away that the Tesla VR2 pickups, they're quite hi-fi, and although they're sold on the Tesla website and on the Harley Benton website as being more vintage voiced humbuckers, I feel like they're quite modern leaning for me personally. They're not super high output, they just have sort of an aggressive tint, which for me was maybe a little bit too much for some of the clean stuff. And I also noticed on the clean channel of the amp that when you engage the coil split and go down to single coil mode, you get a massive reduction in volume. I've not done anything against that in post-production in the playing samples, so you can really hear that for yourself. I hope it comes across well across YouTube as much as it did to me in the room. Now, the tones of the single coil sounds on the clean channel are very, very nice indeed. In some instances, it almost sounded a bit like a piezo pickup, but in some instances, it just sounded a bit like an acoustic guitar, and that gives this guitar another extra layer of flexibility. Once we move up to crunchier tones, I feel like the Tesla pickups really are at their best when it's in humbucking mode. They're really fat, a bit aggressive, you've got a big mid-range push to them, and they really deliver for things like AC/DC, vintage classic rock tones, and more modern stuff too. When I was playing the indie stuff with the Greer Lightspeed, I had to tame the highs on the pedal more than I would normally do. I don't know if that's because of the pickups or if it's just how everything sounded to me that day. I got it sounding great, but I had to do something different to what I would normally do. You could also hear, when I was on the crunch channel of the amp doing the classic rock stuff and I go between humbuckers and single coils, that again you get a massive drop off when you split the coils and go to single coil mode. They almost sounded clean, whereas the humbucking pickups were actually quite crunchy. And so that would be something that if you were in a live scenario, I don't think you could be flicking between humbuckers and single coils without compensating by use of a pedal or use of an amp or use of some kind of a volume control elsewhere in your signal chain. So that's just something to think about if you're considering this guitar and want to be flicking between the two. When we went on to heavier stuff, again, I thought these vintage classic leaning humbuckers did the job exceptionally well. For the hard rock and the pop punk and the alt rock stuff, they sounded fat and thick and modern and present, and I just really enjoyed the sounds. And again, when I flicked on the Rev G3 and did the metal stuff, it sounded like the Rev G3 pedal. I've done so many videos featuring that pedal, and it just gets the tones pretty much no matter what guitar you're using. And I would be fully at home using this guitar to play a metal gig with that setup that I used in this video. I might tweak it a bit based on the venue, based on the cab that I would be using, etc, etc. But put the Rev G3 into a clean channel and use a guitar like this and you can play metal for days on it. So overall, in terms of sounds, I was very impressed with this guitar. It's ultra versatile for what it is. It does so many different genres convincingly as well. For me personally, it was most at home doing classic rock and slightly heavier rock tones, but no matter what sort of taste you've got, if you really like Les Paul sort of tones but want to be able to do a little bit more, you can do it with this guitar. So if you've got about 350 euros and you're looking for a guitar like this, what's the competition? What else could you buy that will give the SC DLX a run for its money? Well, when you consider everything that's on this guitar for 350 euros, you're going to be extremely hard pushed to find something that matches up to it, let alone outperforms it. Now for this price point, I'd first be looking at Epiphones when it comes to an SC single cut Les Paul style of guitar. You probably can't find a 2020 or 2021 current Epiphone Les Paul model for the same price as this guitar. You're going to be paying a couple of €100 or dollars more. But the new Epiphones I've played personally have been excellent. I personally own a 2020 SG, which is a beautiful, really nice playing guitar, which also has that nice satin finish actually. And Epiphone currently makes more traditional and more modern models of its Les Pauls. So take a look at those. If that's something that floats your boat, you might find something that works for you there. But in terms of the quality of the hardware and the quality of the woods that we've got here, you're really going to struggle to beat the SC DLX for the price point. Now there's a bunch of other guitars from other companies that go after that single cut sort of design. Off the top of my head, you've got companies like Vintage who make the V100 range of guitars. You've got others like Gretsch and Guild who make single cut guitars. And you've got a few other brands too. Now, there's also a bunch of other Harley Bentons which will be relevant to your search if you're looking at the SC DLX as well. They make other SC guitars which don't have the Gotoh hardware on them. They make guitars that look more like traditional Les Paul style of instruments, and they make guitars like the ALS, which I recently had on my channel, which is kind of like an ES Les Paul, so it's a slightly larger body than this, and it's semi-hollow. That guitar has the same Tesla VR2 pickups in it, and it has kind of modded Harley Benton specifications. You can watch the video to that guitar on my channel elsewhere if you're interested in that. That one costs around 400 euros new, and I think what I'm going to do is compare that guitar with this one before I give them both back. So that is going to be a good video, which you can also stay tuned for. But overall then, in terms of competition, if you've got 350, you want to spend that, you want to get the best you can in terms of specs on paper, you probably can't beat the SC DLX for the money. And so overall then, I'd say that the SC DLX Gotoh is an absolutely fantastic instrument. For the price, it's pretty much peerless. If you don't consider the price, it's still a really, really good guitar because it's got so many great fixtures and fittings on it. It's got the stainless steel frets, it's got the Graph Tech TUSQ XL nut, it's got the Gotoh tuners and the Gotoh hardware, and it's got full-size pots. So this is an instrument that you're going to be able to play and rely on for years and years to come. Now, if you're a beginner and you've got 350 euros to spare, I don't think you could really get a better instrument than this one to start with, and it will grow with you as you get better and as you progress. But if you've already been playing guitar, if you've got a number of other instruments, this one is going to stack up against the best of them, and it's going to just be another kind of flavour to you, another tonal texture in your sonic arsenal, if you will. I pretty much love everything about this guitar, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it plays, and the way it sounds. In fact, for me personally, the Tesla pickups are possibly the weakest part of the guitar, and they're great. I really, really like them. I just think that might be one area where you could upgrade. Now, lots of Harley Benton guitars come with Roswell pickups as standard. The more expensive ones seem to come with Teslas now, and for me personally, the Teslas don't offer anything extra over the Roswells. I know a lot of you might disagree with that. Leave me a comment if you think I'm an idiot for saying that, but that's just my opinion. But apart from that, absolutely nothing to fault about this instrument. Me personally, I would swap the volume controls, so this was the bridge volume as opposed to the neck, but that's just a personal thing, and that's the great thing about Harley Bentons. As I've said, they're great modding platforms. This one's basically already been modded to the full extent of its capabilities, but you could just change the odd little thing if you wanted to. For 350 euros, it's absolutely excellent value for money. Factor in maybe another 50 euros for a great setup, and you've got a guitar which I think can compete with way, way more expensive instruments. I hope this video has answered all the questions that you have about this guitar, but if you've got any more, feel free to ask me down there and I will answer as quickly as I can to the best of my abilities. And if you're still watching, please drop me a sub on the channel because it really helps me out, and I'd like to have you all as part of the Rich Words Music family. I've got a lot more similar videos just like this one where I look at Harley Benton and other brands of guitars. I do a lot of stuff with pedals and a lot of stuff with amps, and I talk to a lot of cool people from the music industry. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.